Get this thing rolling. Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? Rob, you got me on your screen over there? Cool. Well, we're getting into presentation. What number is this? This is number 11. Presentation number 11 is what we're doing here. As you can see up on the screen, we got some new renders of the cars. Really starting to come to life here as we finished up with the CAD designs and things are off to manufacturing. Now we're able to work on the small little details, which has been a good thing. Here's a view from the back. I know everybody questioned, will the car look cool with a tailgate? There's a rear view. I think the thing looks really sweet. It's got a nice tailgate, 48 inches wide from inseam to inseam, so you could throw a sheet of plywood in it. You know, what made me think of this is last year during Thanksgiving, we were hanging out at the top of the hill at Glamis over Oldsmobile, and we climbed into the back of the XX, and yeah, it was a cool place to sit, but I'm like, man, it'd just be sure nice to kick down the tailgate, hang the feet over the side, and have a true tailgate party, and that's what we're going to be able to do this year during Thanksgiving. Side view, as you can see with the side view, the style of the car did not change. It stayed pretty consistent down the side. Obviously, it would normally bend in right here a little bit, but having this extra space is going to be worth a lot. Just having a spare tire, being able to throw an ice chest in the back, a couple sleeping bags. You've got a lot of cubic inches or cubic feet in the back of this car, which will make going out on day rides and weekend rides a lot more enjoyable. Zoom back in a little bit more front. Stance, I know we talked about it before, but we are 77 inches to the bulge of the tire. So 77 inches to the bulge of the tire. People ask questions constantly. Will it fit in my trailer? How wide is it? The widest part on the car is 77 inches from side to side. Front end has an awesome approach angle. What we're missing here still is the front skid plate, so we'll get a aluminum skid plate built in here to protect the steering rack. We will not leave the steering rack sitting open there with this hydraulic system. It's okay for the rack to be in front. All of the Stadium Super trucks have a steering rack in front. Trophy truck has steering rack in front. Front steer is the ideal way for front end geometry on an off-road vehicle, and we have incorporated this into the Speed UTV. A lot of people question it. Trust me, it's the right thing. Tonight, my presentation is going to get very interesting because I'm going to start showing some bare chassis of other cars. I think the cool thing about it is, you know, people say, well, how heavy is your car? And my answer is whatever it takes to be safe enough. Most important thing is safety. Structure, safety, reliability. This is what we're building for you guys. This is what I want to build for myself. And I want to make sure this thing can run day in and day out without having to take it to a fab shop and get things welded up. You guys are going to see some very interesting stuff tonight. It's been a while. We wanted to get the chassis done before we showed you this. I know I've talked about our spine before, but did want to walk around and show you this. So what we're going to do, we'll talk about the 4-seat has changed. We told everybody for a few weeks now that we would be changing the price on the 4-seater. What we're doing is we're getting ready to have quality dealers, make sure there's enough margin in there for those guys. So that price did change. We offered it up since September. We told everybody June 1st, price would change. So now, new price. Somebody says, why will I buy a car? Why don't I wait until they come out? When this car comes out, the LE comes out and hits the dealer market. I'll zoom in over to this. This is on the Speed UTV site. $35,000 is your down payment price today. If you pre-order a car today, it's $35,000. When this car hits the streets, it's going to be $37,000 minimum. This will be very similar to a Ford Raptor or something, because there's not going to be a lot of them when they first hit the streets. So there's going to be probably a price increase instead of a price decrease like you see everybody else doing. Over here, again, I'll show it. This is the RG. RG today is still about a $3,000 discount if you were to pre-order an RG still today. This car, when it hits the street, is $39,999. That's MSRP on the RG. Cool little tucked, bottomed out, full droop picture. Obviously, you can see where we clear the tire on the outside of the front fender, but when the tire's drooped out, it's got plenty of room to protect you from mud, but it does allow us to save a little bit of room for visibility and increase your visibility over other cars. In the back, you see full droop. This thing will clear a 35-inch tall tire in the back. Two-seat. Two-seat is something we launched after four-seat. We went back and we really looked at our whole program and felt that we needed to offer the two-seat. We offered the El Jefe or the Diablo first, and then we came out with the Baja Bandit. The Diablo, RG Diablo, is still $32,500 today. $32,500 for an RG Diablo, which MSRP of $36,000. This price is going to be good until July 15th. July 15th. Diablo LE, $30,000 today. MSRP, $33,000 when it hits the street. And we will have the Bandit. The Bandit is the short wheelbase two-seater, 36, MSRP, $32,500. Same price between the Diablo and the Bandit. People say, why are they the same price? Because I say they are. It's easier that way. Keep it consistent, keep it simple. Bandit, LE, $30,000, MSRP, $33,000. So these cars are on the website today. We have started to move more two-seaters now that the four-seaters come off. We had a record week in sales last week. We are up to the 1,200 pre-sold cars. So we have surpassed the 1,000 that makes us race legal, and we are setting sail heading towards the finish line here in November. Then we launched this week the base model. As every UTV manufacturer has, you got to have the base. The base is an ideal car for somebody that wants to maybe turn into a race car or somebody that's an entry level getting in. But one thing we wanted to do with our base is we wanted to give them the most performance we could possibly give them at the least amount of price. So our base model is $32,000. That's the same price that we launched the LE at Sand Sports 1 year ago. This is a great car for the value. Still has the turbocharged engine, still has the 225 horsepower, comes with non-beadlock simulated RG wheels. It comes with, what do we call it? We call it our seats. It's got it all listed on the site, sorry, but it does come with simulated beadlock wheels and the factory seats and factory graphics. So we will offer this car in two graphics. This is the black and silver one, and I'm considering a white and black one as well. I think that thing looks good. The tuxedo car looked really good in the renderings. And we'll keep the base model plain and simple, black and white. We're going to get into chassis now, and we're going to get into the four-seat, and we're going to talk about structure of chassis. I think it's important that we talk about structure, and I try to explain with you guys as much as I possibly can about this car. You having a problem over there, Rob, or are you good over there? Audio's a little choppy. You want me to see if I can wiggle the wire or something? Or? Sorry about that, guys. Instagram is, I'm on data right now, right?
It's on Wi-Fi.
Is it? Okay, hang on a second. We're going to switch off of that, go to data and see if that gives us a little bit better. Are we good there? Is that any better, guys? I'm sorry that, that it's been choppy for you tonight. There will be a complete review of this. Hopefully, we'll get this posted on Speed UTV as well. I want to talk about chassis. Tonight we're going to talk about our chassis, and then we're going to compare our chassis to other manufacturers. When I talk about chassis, you know, this is my opinion. This is only the experience I have over the last 35 years competing from, you know, IndyCar, NASCAR, Baja, Dakar, you know, Mickey Thompson off-road, you know, Torque, Lucas Oil, our Stadium Truck Series, building RC cars, and obviously NASCAR. So all I can give you is my opinion, but one thing I know, when we decided we were going to enter the market as a speed UTV and we were going to put our name on it as a manufacturer, not design it for somebody else, I was going to build you guys the best car in the industry, and we were going to set the new standard. Something kind of interesting, you know, everybody said, well, you know, every year I got to buy a new car to keep up with the Joneses. Got to be honest, with this car here, I look at this build being very similar to what we did with the Riviera truck. A lot of people look at the Riviera truck and say, oh, that's the Riviera truck. Well, that Riviera truck was built in 1993. It qualified on the pole for the Baja 1000 3 years ago. It's 27 years old today, and it's still a very, very, very competitive trophy truck. One thing we're doing with the Speed UTV is we started at trophy truck or Dakar Premier level, and we're working our way down to UTVs. If you look at the other manufacturers, they started with three-wheeler, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, quads, and they're working their way up to a UTV. Obviously, the Polaris has been around for a while, the Can-Am's been around for a while, but when I start showing you the Polaris bare chassis and the Can-Am bare chassis versus what we're building for the Speed UTV, you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised. So when you guys ask me about weight, yes, we're going to weigh a little bit more, but what I'm going to do is build the strongest, most structurally designed car in the industry. I want to talk about the full-length spine. One more time, I want to explain how that works. So we've got the billet bulkhead down here that holds all the front suspension geometry, steering rack, and the front transaxle, or not really transaxle, the front differential and locking mechanism. We've got a nice plate that registers into the top of the cases. From here, we run up to this bar here, which takes us over to the A-post and takes us to these, people think they're intrusion bars. A lot of people think they're intrusion bars. They're not intrusion bars on this car. Would they help with an intrusion? Yes. But what this does, if you look, we connect here, here, and here, and then we go down the middle. We're the pretty much the only, I think we're the only UTV with a spine in it. I might be a little bit wrong when I get to the Can-Am page, but what we do here is we slide down over here and we come all the way to the back corner. But we also support the shocks. We come down off of here, hit this triangle, get over here to the shock mounts. There's another one that splits off this side. It connects it all down together. We basically have a spine through the top of the chassis that really ties the left front shock to the right rear shock, the left rear shock to the right front. We've really got the car connected left and right, structurally sound, which will also protect us in a crash. One thing, if you were to have a crash, we are the first car in the UTV industry that has actually put an A-post in here. I call that the FIA bar. We do have that bar in place, and we have that in place because of an experience that we've seen this last winter with one of our current cars. So we had to add some support there and make sure that that bar does not cave down and get down into the driver or passenger if you were to have a tumble. These cars are going to go fast. You're going to go faster than what you're used to, and we got to make sure that we make the roll cage safer for you guys and girls. Like I said, we got the spine here, connects all this together, triangles everywhere, all tubes intersect, all junctions intersect. This is going to be a really interesting junction. I'm going to kind of show you here heading down at the rear pivot point. If you look at the amount of square inches of weld right here and the way we've connected from the top to the bottom and into this intersection and then off of the motor mount into that intersection, we've really got the chassis tied together right at that outer pivot point. Save that thought as we move forward. Integrated shock mounts. Shock mounts are integrated into this structure, not integrated into a non-supported tube. We support the bends. If you look here, if we have a bend here, we come down off the chassis, we got a bend here, we connect that bend and gives us structure to support the bend in and out from moving. And one thing we do want to discuss is on the Speed UTV, we have what we call sheet metal shock mounts. And these are 120 wall 4130 shock mounts that go from your inner pivot point all the way up to your shock mount. They tie this intersection together here, here, here. This X comes in here and holds this intersection at the top of the shock mount. Very structurally sound, very strong. Again, save these thoughts. I'll show you some of the cars here right after this. All right, now I'm going to roll into the Can-Am. Tonight's discussion, if this is my opinion of everybody else's car, I want to make that clear. This is my opinion based on my experience in off-road racing over the years. Can-Am here is a very interesting chassis. It's definitely interesting, but one thing I want to point out is right here we come right to the beginning with a non-supported tube. The front structure were the front diff mounts. No real structure here, not tying any of this stuff together. Single shear shock mounts. There's not even a dual shear shock mount. What I've been told from a lot of my friends in the industry, you either have to go to Geyser or to S3 and buy a structural front upgrade, because if this thing touches the ground, it junks the chassis. So I know the thing bottoms out into the ground, does not have enough ground clearance at full bump, and it is a little bit structurally unsafe there. Another thing interesting is these dead tubes, you know, where you look here, you got tubes, you're sitting on a plate here. They do have, the Can-Am does have 4 bars across the roof, but there's no X through the roof. So basically it's a bunch of 2x4s standing up. Obviously left-right structure is not there in my opinion. This is the Can-Am. I talked about the single shear shock mounts, talked about the unsupported front chassis. You either have to go to the guys over S3, which make quality parts, as well as Geyser Brothers is making, or Geyser Performance out of Phoenix, Arizona, is making some wonderful parts. Sean over there does a really nice job. So diagonal bracing, no diagonal bracing, and dead tubes. We get back to that same thing again. We've got a tube here tied to the shock mount, but really that tube doesn't go to anything. It's just sitting here in the middle of the tube. You see it, same tube sitting over here. It's definitely questionable. Now I can go into the chassis and you say, okay, why does that matter? What I've got here is I've got some pictures. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a pivot point mount here. It's pretty much all broken out because it wasn't supported there. Here's another mount here. Basically cracked all through that weld, cracked all through this weld. Over here, this is a big problem. Obviously it was supported and refit here once before. You can see the Band-Aid, but then it broke this tube here. You can see over here on this side, same thing over where the sway bar mount is. There's a big broken tube there. Rear chassis, pretty much every weld has some type of a crack. All right, so this is, like I said, this is my opinion of the Can-Am. Rob, you want to go ahead and roll to that video? Unfortunately, Instagram, you guys are not going to be able to see it right now, but Rob's going to go ahead and roll to a video here for about a minute and a half. He'll let me know when he's back live again. As we get ready, and Rob's showing the video to the people over on Facebook and YouTube, we'll start talking about the Polaris. Whoops, wait, hang on a second. There it is, there's the Polaris. I got confused between 2 cars, and want to make sure I had the right one. And so Rob's giving me thumbs up. He's looking good over on his side. Like I said, we're bouncing back between those 2 photos here. I'm looking at the new XP Pro, and this chassis here is very interesting in my opinion. I'm sure it's light, I'm sure it's nimble, but man, it's questionable. It's definitely questionable in my opinion. We ready to roll into this? Hang on one second. I will get in next week. I will spend more time on the Polaris chassis. I'll get into some structures. We'll do some of the similar stuff that we did with the Can-Am next week, and we'll go through and just dissect a Polaris chassis. Right now, they're looking at the Can-Am sway bar mounts, tubes. Some of the pictures I showed you, there was actually a full video that was put together. I found it online, and basically shows where you gotta really check your cars and make sure that if you do take them out and beat them really hard, that you're checking them so the next ride you can go out and you're safe out there when you're riding. So like I said, I'm getting ready to go into the Polaris one over here. I'll wait for this video to end. I can see it on a screen over where they're doing the production. I will get into questions at the end. I'm going to answer questions that were emailed to me here right after the Polaris. I do want to show you a bit of what my opinion is of the Polaris. And I think they make some very quality vehicles. And they're as fast as these UTVs are going today. I just don't know if I would want to crash one of these things wide open with this style of structured roll cage. Like I said, it's just my opinion. You know, and I'm out there to obviously teach everybody as much as I can about chassis, suspension, and why you should choose a speed UTV. Looks like Rob's done over there, so I will get back into into the Polaris. This is a car that Corey Geiser had, and it looks just like the new Polaris. As I get into Polaris, and I said next week, I'll really get into Polaris. I'll dissect the Polaris chassis like we did the Can-Am chassis. We'll start showing you some things. Just from a 50,000 foot view for me, first thing I'm going to go to is I'm going to take a look at the front shock mounts. They're right in the middle of a tube. Shock is pushing this way. These tubes are going to this angle. So I call this an unsupported tube here. Again, we talked about dead tubes. As we roll in here, there's a dead tube here, but the one that's even more questionable for me is this is the roll cage. And it's held on with 2 bolts, like a little 90,000 piece of sheet metal, and dead tube, no support. I question that. I mean, I know if I was gonna go end over end, I just don't think I'd wanna do it in this car. As you guys all know, and you're gonna rip me up for this, but you guys have seen me crash hard before. That's how you learn, that's how you gain experience, and this is how it allows us to build a chassis and be the best in the business. Over here, I don't know what WTF means, but this right here is probably the most interesting thing I have ever seen in any fabricated car. Not a race car, just vehicle. But I got a roll cage that I'm structurally trying to protect the passengers inside here. And right here, I think it's 90 thou mild steel, HSLA, something like that, with a dimple dyed hole tacked to another unsupported tube. Like I said, I will get into Polaris next week. I'll show you more about the Polaris. We'll talk about what people need to do to make them even close to being as good as what a Speed UTV would be on the chassis suspension side. But when you look at our price for a Speed UTV, just remember there's a lot more tubing in the car, there's a lot more structure in the car, and the cars are actually very, very well thought out. So I'll come back here one more time now that I've showed you the Polaris and the Can-Am, and we'll get into the chassis one more time. As you see, everything has a triangle. It's basically box, protected. There's no dead tubes. Everything is intersected. Everything meets, comes up, structured, double shear shock mounts, double shear pivot points, shouldered bolts all the way through, 3-speed shiftable gearbox. I believe with the turbo placement at the rear, I believe that we are building the safest, and this is my opinion again, we are building the safest UTV in the industry that the industry has ever seen before for a production vehicle. I want to show you a bit more of the front diff. Obviously, the bulkhead structure on the front diff. This is something I did on the Unicorn, something we've been working on for a couple of years. Took us a little while to figure it out. We wanted to integrate this right into the first UTV that we built at Speed UTV, because this is the right way to tie the front end together. You know, as you guys weld metal and it pulls and it moves around, when we do a cast machined bulkhead like this, all the pivot points will be perfectly machined. All the pivots will slide together. You won't have to take pry bars. You won't have to take hammers and pound this thing in. It's got inside, it has machined bosses that press in so you're not riding your suspension points on aluminum. You've got the hydraulic power steering system integrated. This is the top mounting plate that you saw in the chassis. I'll go back to the chassis and show you that piece hanging. We've got another structure piece here that supports the sway bar, but also supports some chassis. We've got another chassis support there. And then we have this tongue and groove that runs around the back that the thing plugs into, and it has a register that'll keep it turning left to right. It's got a structure back there, a small little bulkhead at the back that this thing plugs into that really makes it strong. I'll go back one more time. This is the side plates that you saw. Those are where the side plates tie in. This is where the front plates tie in. It's got 4 tubes coming down. Has a lot of structure, a lot of diagonal. Elbows are out. Really a lot of structure to support the front end from moving left to right. I'll get into questions. This week we'll entertain questions again. We'll do phone calls right after questions and see if I can do whatever I can to help you guys. I'll give you the phone number again, 704-949-1255. I will not go to phone calls until after I finish up with the questions. So I'm going to finish up with the questions for you. We'll do them first, then we'll take phone calls for 15 minutes, and then a couple of cool things at the end that we'll share with you as well. So Brock says, if I'm not mistaken, the two-piece wheels rely on 3/8 bolts to hold the ring into the wheel. How is this going to absorb impacts? Brock, I want to thank you for that question. I guess I didn't explain it good enough last week or the week before when we did the wheels. So we have gone in, and I will explain to you one more time how we're doing this. The bolts are just holding the wheel face into the register, so they are not loaded. The wheels utilize a shoulder face that distributes the load from the barrel into the wheel hub, meaning the fasteners are not load sensitive. There's a shoulder, it pops it in. The fasteners are squeezing the beadlock wheel tire together, and they're also holding it into the register, very similar to what we have on the back of like a XX where the rear hub plugs in, or a Speed UTV, or back in the day when we ran the Dakar Hummers, the way the whole assembly plugged into the trailer arm. There's a 3/8 register there. We took that right over the wheel. Let me show you what that is, help answer that question. We split a wheel apart here, and I think this is probably going to be the easiest way to say it. We split the whole front suspension apart. So as you see, we have the beadlock face here, which is a wheel face that gives us the best, positive offset, which helps us for kingpin inclination, scrub radius, loading the bearings. If you think about it, we've got the bearing down here in the middle of the wheel. If you look where the bearing is right here, we're dead center on the center of the wheel with the bearing. That is the strongest wheel bearing placement we could possibly do. Imagine if I move that wheel bearing over here like some of the other cars. We're basically trying to rip it out of the wheel bearing all the time. We have swallowed the bearing with the wheel. That's why we had to design our own wheels. We had to really do this with the Unicorn when we started it, and it was such a cool idea. I wanted to incorporate it into our new Speed UTV. So all LE cars, all RG cars come with a two-piece RG beadlock wheel, which is the next generation wheel, which is this wheel here. So you can see the cutaway, you can see the bearing, you can see the brake rotor here. This is the bearing, there's the CV. You can see some steering bolts. If you look where the steering bolt is, think about that. That steering bolt is way inside the wheel. If you look at some of the other cars, they're actually outside the wheel and tire. And right there, that nice little lip, that's a 3/8 load. If we shear these wheels off, we got much bigger problems. You'll probably be picking up your helmet a long ways away from you. It's going to be a big crash. Wheel, the way it works, sits inside this machine radius. There's a lip inside this wheel, plugs in. Washers, bolts go on, holds the whole thing in. It's structurally sound. Thanks for your question. It was a good question. Hopefully this will answer the wheel for one of the last times. This will be on Speed UTV's website. You can go back and look at all of our presentations if you haven't seen these. The next one is Brock Randolph. He said, I noticed some of the drawings have doors like, half doors like a Polaris and Can-Am, but the pictures I've seen all have solid doors. Anybody know what we have? The reality is we don't build a half door. If you choose to take your door off your car, that's your choice. But in my opinion, and like I said, this is my opinion, we will be shipping all cars, all times with full doors. Anything less would not be up to my safety standards, all right? So solid doors, can't get your foot out. If you're tipping over, you won't be able to reach your foot out like you can on a Polaris or Can-Am and think you're gonna save it, because you're probably gonna have a broken femur, broken leg. You might not even have an ankle anymore. I wanna make sure you keep your hands, arms, and feet inside the car at all times. Come on guys, be safe out there. You're not going to be able to use your leg to hold this car up if it's tipping over. It's just not, it's not physically possible. Cars are way too heavy. Keep your feet inside the cars. I suggest all the guys, and this is a suggestion, obviously we will supply the cars with arm restraints. The cars will come with arm restraints, but I suggest you guys get window nets on all cars. It's just a matter of time, and you know, it's a natural reaction. I'm gonna hold myself from hitting the ground. While the ground's moving, your arm gets sucked underneath the tube. I've got good friends that have been hurt with their arms before. This car being 77 inches wide will be the most stable UTV in the industry. We are the widest, most stable UTV in the industry with the lowest roll center. So we've got all of our weight down low. We've got a low roll center in the car. We are the lowest roll center of all UTVs in the UTV industry. Alex Ramirez, he said, what did he say? I don't know how, Alex, I don't know how you got it from this picture, but he said, I thought the radiator was going to be mounted behind the front seat. Testing video. Guys, you're doing a wonderful job over in the marketing department. This is a graphic rendering. We'll be dropping more of these on you, but it allows us to see what the car looks like in its habitat. This is obviously a dune shot. I am so looking forward to riding out in the winter, or this winter out in the dunes and seeing awesome sunsets like that out in Glamis. So look for the Speed UTV at Sunset Hill. Here, this is a rendering, and I don't know how you could see that the radiator is not back here or up here, but I want to clarify that just as we're into this question. The radiator for open cars, the first cars that come off the assembly line, cars 2021 models, all 2021 models will be rear radiator. We will have a mid-year 2021, which will come out around June. I'll try to shoot for that to be a 2022 model, June, July. Enclosed cab, air conditioning, windows, all the way around, sealed cab. No more dirt, no more dust. You can ride in the wintertime, you can ride in the summertime. We will have air conditioning and we will have heat. Jason Kramer, his question is, he did this for us. Thank you, Jason. If you're running 75 miles an hour down a sand wash dirt road trail, which front end would you trust the most? And up here in the front, you see the Polaris front suspension. Down below, you see the Can-Am front suspension. This will be on the side again. And over in this picture, you see the double shear steering rod in front, Speed UTV front suspension. And this is basically the suspension that we've designed. We have been testing these cars at the Dakar Rally, we've been testing them at Baja. We have had these cars all over the world. I truly feel that the front end geometry, structure, chassis is the strongest in the industry. Again, this is my opinion, that it's the strongest in the industry as a production vehicle. We are the closest vehicle to being able to race in the Pro Turbo class. We have sold over 1,000 cars. We will be legal to race, and we will be seeing guys at the UTV Nationals this year, and we'll see how we stack up. We think we've got something for you guys. Questions. Let's get into some questions real quick, and then I'll do a quick follow-up after questions. Questions, 704-949-1255. Questions at 704-949-1255. I'll take a few of those. Guys that don't want to stick around for the phone questions, you guys have a great night. Stay safe out there. And thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate you guys watching the Wednesday night shows. Every Wednesday night, we give you guys a little bit more. I've got a caller coming on right here. Hey, you got Robbie Gordon here. How you doing, buddy? Hello?
I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good. Getting excited about these UTVs.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you giving us a call in. How can I help you with a question tonight?
Yeah, I got two questions for you. So, first question on the 3-speed transmission. Is the low gear going to be like a granny for rock crawling?
Yes. So the 3-speed gearbox question was on the 3-speed transmission, is low gear going to be like a granny gear? That answer is yes. We've got a couple other calls coming in. Ginger, you want to grab a couple of those calls and just put them on hold for me? So for low gear will be granny, rock crawling, mud crawling gear. Very easy on the belt drive system. And then obviously you would have the mid gear, which would be like most UTVs. And then basically we've got an overdrive. So for the guys out west that run down in Baja and in different areas, and they want to not be sitting there towards the rev limiter at all times, they're just kind of cruising along. That top gear is it's a cruise gear, and it's just going to be easier on the drivetrain and engine.
Okay, all right. Second question, so you're saying that we're going to get a template perhaps to run 35s on these cars?
Yes, basically the rear fender clears 35s 100%. The front fender, we're going to have to trim it up about 3/4 of an inch, and we will have a template online that you guys will be able to trim that. And if you do a good job at it, you'll never even know you trimmed it. It'll be right on that edge. We do a lot of trimming on the XX rear fenders with the speed UTVs that we currently race.
Okay, and then the drivetrain will hold up to those 35s, okay? I mean, I know some guys are running them now on the current side-by-side, but it looks like it takes a toll on them, so I was curious to, how that's going to hold up over time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what 35-inch tall tire you stick on the thing. You know, you put a car 35-inch tall tire on it, I'm going to question that. You put a UTV 35-inch tire that's made for a UTV, a nice lightweight, 40-pound tire on it, but you start throwing 100-pound tires on these vehicles, and I don't know what's going to hold up to that as a UTV.
Yeah, sure.
I could obviously make it strong enough to carry a 39, but then we would start getting into a much heavier vehicle.
Yeah, okay.
All right, excellent question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to another caller here. Hang on a second, guys. Hi, you got Robbie Gordon here. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, thanks for calling. You got a question on Speed UTV?
Yes, I do. How many stages of compression is going to be into the shocks?
Okay, so the question of tonight was how many stages of compression are going to be in the shocks? And I see you're calling from Michigan. These shocks will have infinite progression all the way through, very similar to what we run on the front of the trophy truck. It has multiple stages. It all depends to where we get to our final tuning, but I'd probably figure 10 to 12 stages on compression, and probably 7 stages on rebound. And we will be able to control it differently. And we do have an adjustable plunger on the outside that separates compression and rebound. Because sometimes you want to go fly the thing, well, you put it on a stiff, and that obviously stiffens up your rebound so it doesn't pop the front as much. You'll be able to separate front compression and rear compression and rebound. So if you want to, like in the front, you want to keep it from bottoming out, you can make it stiffer on compression, but you don't have to take the rebound away so that the car doesn't kick. You can basically make the car still pop. So we'll get into different riding terrains, tell you where you should put your secondary crossovers on the springs based on where you're riding. Obviously, you go to the sand dunes, you might want to lift your ride height a little bit. It depends on what kind of trails you're riding. Up in Michigan, I know you guys can get away with a lower ride height, but then you got to be careful for climbing over the rocks. So it's a compromise, and to each his own. Everybody will start playing with it. One thing nice about social media today, everybody's going to go out there and they're going to talk and say, hey, I did this on my Speed UTV. Another guy said, well, I did this. And it really just depends on to each his own comfort level. But you can obviously raise and lower ride height. The shocks will get stiffer and freer as they change ride height. So they're always adjusting, and they do have internal bump stops built into them.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for calling tonight. Hey, caller, you're on with Robbie Gordon tonight. How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Hey, thanks for calling us tonight. I see you're calling from the 909 area code. How you doing out there?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. We're back here in Charlotte. We do the show from the old NASCAR shop where we ran the NASCAR stuff, and we ran Indy cars out of here back in the day. And we've turned this into our engineering facility. How can I help you with a question tonight?
My question is, I ordered my FS.
Yep.
I upgraded to the RG.
Yes, sir.
What do you think you expect for deliveries for that?
Can you tell me what number you are? Could you tell me what number you are? The reason we have numbers, the numbers tell when we.
The first one, it was 718.
718. You're looking at right around Christmas time, maybe a little bit after Christmas time. We started taking pre-orders back in September. My goal is to get those guys, all the guys and girls that ordered at Sand Sports. We have a goal to get our cars to Glamis for Thanksgiving weekend for those orders, and we're going to work through the numbers based off your number. Obviously, we're going to group 4-seaters and 2-seaters. But we've sold enough 4-seaters and 2-seaters to switch back and forth in the assembly line.
So what's the difference? Because when I upgraded, it came in a different number. It came in a 90 unit.
Yep. So basically, you are the 90th RG 4-seater.
Exactly.
Yep. So, but your car will be built in the order of your original number, that 700 number.
Okay, so you go back.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you Sunday in San Felipe.
All right. Sounds good. Look forward to it, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you got Robbie Gordon here. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Robbie, how you doing, man? This is first time calling, long time listener.
No way. Seriously.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've been listening to you, watching these episodes. Man, I'm digging it, man. I'm wanting to put a damn order in for one of these damn side-by-sides. Just trying to figure out which one I'm on.
Well, Jesse, what car are you thinking about getting, buddy?
I'm thinking about the LFA.
The LFA. Are you a big guy? Are you a small guy? What are you?
Oh, well, I'm kind of a big guy. I'm about 235.
Where are you planning on riding with this machine?
Well, I guess I'm going to do it on the East Coast. I'm an East Coast guy.
Well,
But, you know, that's what I'm looking at.
cool. Yeah, I know it's good to have you calling tonight. Have you had a UTV before? Do you even know what a UTV is?
Yeah, yes, sir. I've been in the Yamaha. I've been running Yamaha before, and it's pretty fast and fun. But you know, your deal looks pretty quick.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I know. You know the Yamaha engine. They make a great engine. We use that Yamaha 3-cylinder in the XX that we did for Textron, and you know it's been a very, very good engine. It's very lightweight, high performance. Yes,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a fan of Yamaha for sure.
Oh yeah, man. I'm ready to get myself in one of these damn RG specials for sure.
All right, cool. Well, you stay in touch. Let us know when you order one.
I'll do it, buddy.
All right,
Appreciate it.
cool. You take care, buddy.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a good night.
You too. Hey, you got Robbie Gordon here. How you doing?
Hey, Robbie, this is Mike. How's it going?
Hi, Mike. How you doing tonight?
Good. We got a couple questions. We ordered 3 of the full cab units, the 4-seaters.
Yes, sir. So you're gonna order one. You're probably one of the first orders for the air conditioning ones.
I think I was the 8th, maybe.
8th order.
5570, I believe is my number, the very first one.
Okay, cool. So you're 570, and you think you're vehicle number 8, huh?
I think so.
Awesome. 4-seat enclosed.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Any question I can answer you tonight with regards to your car?
Yeah. Are they going to come with a parking brake on them?
The question is, the car is going to come with a parking brake. We will leave that into our testing when we do final testing. Right now, we think we got it built in significant enough into the gearbox. But if it's not, obviously, as we go with bigger tires and put it up in the hills, we will look at a line lock system. We have looked at it. We've discussed it. I've looked at a line lock. And I've also looked at an over center under the steering wheel. Basically, you roll a cam down and it pushes your brake pedal down, which would apply pressure to your brakes, which will give you a parking brake. So we have looked at this. That's something I actually, Walker Evans back in the day when we raced off-road, he had one of those on his off-road truck back in the day. It was a really cool design. So if the gearbox does not hold it and it's not significant and we feel like it's too much load on the gearbox, I think I understand what you're talking about is if you park on the hill and you get out to hang out with your buddies, then you go try to pull the thing and you know it's trying to break the cable, it's just really bound up. And I think that's probably why you're asking the question.
You know, the reason why is the state of Michigan, and you got to have a cable operating parking brake in order to make them street legal to actually put a plate on something like that.
Oh, you have to have a cable brake. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was not aware of that. Hydraulic does not work either?
No.
Huh.
Not unless you get the right inspector.
Yeah, no, I understand that. You know, obviously our goal is we're building an off-road vehicle here, and we're trying to build something that has a great crossover for the gravel roads and the farmers. You know, if you look at the Speed UTV, it's a performance vehicle, but it's got a bed where you can haul stuff. You know, you can throw some hay bales in the back of it. You can throw some shovels and rakes. Obviously, go out and hit the farm fields during the work week, and still be able to play with your machine on the weekend and the sport side of things.
Yep. Now, what about the cab? Are you going to do any kind of like sound detonator, like Dynomat or anything, or carpet?
Yeah, our air conditioning cab, like you said, you did order an air condition. It will have like a rubber foam insulation. Obviously, we're going to have to insulate the roof because the roof creates a lot of heat, which would be really hard for the air conditioner to keep up with. But we'll also do the doors, the floorboards, all that stuff. So we will have some sound deadening. We will have some heat resistance. It's something that we have looked at. We have one of these kits that we actually put into the XX that we put on the rear firewall, and it makes a big difference. I mean, the firewall with a normal car, you touch it's hot. You put this kit on, you can put your hand there, so it'd be a lot easier to cool it and to keep it at the ambient temperature a lot cooler.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I'm excited.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for calling in, and glad to have you as a customer. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, well, that's going to take the calls tonight here at Speed UTV. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. We're very, very, as you can tell, I'm very excited about this build. Really looking forward to it, and just, you know, I feel that we have made you guys the best industry, best UTV in the industry. I mean, if you look at it structurally, you look at the closed doors, you look at the wheels, the tires, the shock absorbers, the gearbox, the geometry of front and rear, the axles. I mean, I'll kind of bounce through this. I mean, I love that picture of it sitting there at the sunset. I am looking forward to riding this thing, looking forward to riding with you guys, and really do appreciate it. One thing, yep, I'll flick back over to the front render. Sorry about that, I went the wrong direction. As you see, we'll start posting more and more renders. You'll be able to play with your revolver here in a few weeks. I know I've been saying this. Building this profile revolver is a challenge. It's a lot of work. The guys are digging. It's something they want just as much as you guys want. I know you guys have been popping over to Octane Inc., looking at the speed graphic over there. So if you go to Octane INC, you can go over there and you can start playing with the graphic. It won't be exactly what we're going to have, but at least you can start picking your color choices. They do have one of our earlier model Speed UTV two-seater Bandit and El Jefe over there that you can play with and mix some of your graphics around. Oh, Octane Inc. INK, LLC.com. Octane Inc. LLC.com. Brett's a good buddy of ours. He's been working on some stuff over there. Like I said, it'll be something similar to what we have here. Just popping up some pictures here. Really like the way the bodywork came out, like the way the fenders were able to stay low so we can see some visibility. This is still hiding the radiator here. A lot of people question, why do you have the number plate there? That's our air intake for the intake of the engine. It's the air intake for the clutches. It's all packaged up in the back here. The radiator's back here behind it. It's the optimum place for an open cockpit car to have the radiator. So again, thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll do another episode next Wednesday night. Send us your questions, and next Wednesday night we'll get into the Polaris chassis a little bit more and show you inside of that car like we did the Can-Am. Thanks again.